Hello and welcome to my channel. I am Soumya and this is the lecture series on legal and constitutional history. This is the first lecture of the series in which I am discussing the topic Charter of 1600 and 1609. So let's get right into it. Before starting, tell me something. When you think of the British ruling India for almost 200 years, what comes to your mind? Soldiers? Cannons? Robert Clive on a horse? Here's the twist most people never learn in school. The British Empire in India did not begin with an army. It began with a piece of paper, a business license. Yes, issued to a bunch of London merchants who simply wanted to buy pepper and spices a little cheaper. That one document, signed on the very last day of the year 1600, quietly planted the seed of what would become the largest empire the world has ever seen. As law students, this is your starting point because every constitutional concept that you will study, such as the concept of rule of law, delegated legislation, corporate personality, royal prerogative, all of it has its roots right here. So let's begin. Firstly, let's look at the background of it. So picture England at the end of the 16th century. Queen Elizabeth I is on the throne. Across the sea, the Portuguese and the Spanish have already been making fortunes trading spices such as pepper, cloves, cinnamon from the East Indies, what we today call Southeast Asia and India. The Dutch are right behind them, organizing powerful trading companies. English merchants are watching them and thinking, why should they get rich while we sit here? So a group of London businessmen come together and petition the Queen. Your Majesty, give us the legal right to trade with the East. In response, on 31st December 1600, Queen Elizabeth I grants this request. She issues a royal charter, and with that, a company is born that history will remember as the East India Company. Here, let me explain to you quickly what is the meaning of royal charter. Okay, think of it like this. In those days, the crown had something called the royal prerogative, which is special power that the monarch had. Not because parliament gave them, but simply because they were the sovereign. So, one such power was the ability to create a corporation. So, the queen used this power and created the company. Now, this company was created on 31st December 1600 and it granted to a group of 218 merchants the right to trade with the East Indies, right? Now coming to the company itself. The actual original name of the company was the Governor and the Company of Merchants of London trading into the East Indies. Generally, it is referred to as the East India Company. Notice the structure. There is a governor at the top and then company of merchants, meaning a group of merchants bound together as one legal unit. This is exactly what we today call a joint stock company. Moving on to the monopoly of trade. The charter gave the company the trade monopoly. The charter granted this company the exclusive right to trade with Africa and Asia. No other English merchant could trade legally in this region. If you were an English trader and you wanted a piece of this lucrative spice trade, you had exactly one legal route: get a license from this company or don't trade at all. Now let's look at the most important feature of this charter, which is the tenure of the charter. So this monopoly, would it last forever? No, the charter was not granted forever. It was granted for a period of 15 years. There was a safety clause built in for the crown, which means that the charter could be revoked before the completion of 15 years by the crown by giving a notice of 2 years. So the crown is essentially saying that I am giving you this monopoly for 15 years, but if at some point I decide that this isn't working in England's interest, I reserve the right to cancel it by just giving a fair warning of 2 years so that you can wind down your affairs. So that is how this charter or this exclusive right was never an unconditional permanent grant. It was conditional, time bound, and revocable. Now let's look at the governing structure of the company that was formed. So this company had a governor at the top and 24 directors. Together they were all called as the Court of Committees or the Court of Directors. This was essentially the company's board, the decision making executive body that managed trade, finances, ships, everything. Who elected these members? The Court of Proprietors, that was the shareholders, the investors of the company. They elected these 25 members of the Court of Directors. Now the charter gave some powers to the company, powers to make laws. Okay, so the company could make reasonable laws for law and order and good governance of the company and rules and regulations for its servants. Okay, another thing about the charter is that it did not give the company any power, any political power. It was only a trade license. The company had no authority over any Indian territory, no power to acquire any territory, and no judicial or administrative authority. Right? So, this is about the Charter of 1600. Now, let's move on to the Charter of 1609. So, Queen Elizabeth I passed away in the year 1603, and the throne moves to a new monarch, King James I. In 1609, he looks at this 9-year-old trading company and makes one decision that fundamentally transforms its future. So by 1609, with roughly 6 years still technically left on the clock, the merchants of the company approached King James I, asking him to renew and strengthen this grant. So they wanted certainty because they had invested huge amount of money into the business. So King James I issued a fresh charter in the year 1609. The most important change that was done to the charter of 1600 was that King removed the 15-year time limit entirely. So the fixed term limitation that was granted was completely removed. Instead of a fixed tenure, now the company's trading rights were indefinite, meaning for an unlimited duration as long as the company continued to be profitable and beneficial to the crown. So, this unlimited duration was provided in return for a condition that the affairs of the company, the business of the company should continue to be profitable and beneficial for the crown. Now, why do you think the king did this? Why would King James I willingly give up crown's power to simply let this monopoly expire? The answer is money and national interest. The company was proving to be profitable. It was bringing wealth into England, helping the crown compete against Dutch and Portuguese trading powers, and the king saw long term value in giving the company the security and confidence to invest more heavily, build more ships, and expand its trading posts. So that's the reason why King removed the time limitation. Some other provisions which were there in the Charter of 1609 are that the corporate character of the company that remained the same, the trade monopoly also remained the same, the power to make laws for the company's servants was also the same as the Charter of 1600. So, fundamentally, no political, legislative, or judicial powers were given over the territory of India to the company. So, everything else essentially remained same. The only thing, the main thing that was changed was the time limitation. Now, let's look at the significance or importance of both of these charters. Alright, so both of these charters mark the starting point of the legal relationship between India and England. It is a foundational stage. It is the stage where the first time the Britishers they entered India. It is also the origin of the East India Company. East India Company which later started ruling India, right? So this is how the East India Company was originated through the Charter of 1600. In the charter, some law making powers were granted to the company, right? So the seeds of legislative power to the company were sown in these charter. And lastly, the both the charters subsequently were transformed into the other charters of 1661, 1726, 1753, and so on and so forth. So, this is the significance and importance of these two charters. That's all for today. Thank you and stay connected.